Hello, friends. I'm stopping by just to update you on what's going on at juiceboxpodcast.com. The site has gotten a complete overhaul. It's got a much simpler design now. It should be easier for you to get around on, both on your computer and on your mobile device. Juiceboxpodcast.com. You scroll down, the first thing you're going to see, 8 simple buttons where you can subscribe or follow the podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, the private Facebook group, the public Facebook page, and an extra link that says find a free podcast app in case you don't want Spotify or whatever you see right there. You click on that. It takes you to a web page that shows you all the availability for the device that you're on. You click on a free app, download it, and you can listen that way. Just below that are the new episodes that just went up. You can click on them to go to their specific websites. So each episode gets its own website. The reason that's important is because at that link, you could listen online if you wanted to, but more importantly, maybe there's a big link underneath of the player that says click for episode transcript. When you click on that plus mark, there's a drop down that gives you the entire transcript for the podcast. This is a thing I don't mention enough, but a lot of people want. Some people just are not podcast listeners. Some people tell me they have ADHD. It's hard for them to listen, but they want to read. So every episode of the podcast has a corresponding transcript with it. And beginning in 2025, we're going to start doing a shorter breakdown of what's on the show. You guys who have been listening for a while will know I struggle to encapsulate what each episode is about because they seem to be about so many different things. I don't know how to break that down into a couple of sentences. So we're going to do, and by we, I mean me, but we're going to run a situation where I'm going to run the transcript through AI and have it pick out a few key points. And those should be listed on each website. And we're going to try to work them into the show notes in the podcast player if there's space. I'm going to have to do some reimagining of the podcast player show notes to make everything fit. If you didn't know, when you're listening in an app, you can go into the show notes of each episode and there's links in there. So like if you're like, oh, I do want to get a Omnipod, you can go right in there and click on my link. You can also get the juiceboxpodcast.com from there. There's links for players and audio apps and everything in there. So I'm going to try to put that information in there as well. So this is it, really. I'm just stopping by to let you know, juiceboxpodcast.com, completely renovated, nice and fresh. You continue to scroll down under the listen to a new episode link, and you're going to see jump to a series. Now, the podcast has so many different series and collections: Defining Diabetes, Diabetes Pro Tip for Type 1, Bold Beginnings, Omnipod 5 Pro Tip, Algorithm Pumping, Ask Scott and Jenny, Mental Wellness, Fat and Protein, Defining Thyroid, After Dark, Diabetes Variables, How We Eat, Grand Rounds, Cold Wind, Pregnancy, The Math Behind, GLP Meds, Type 2 Pro Tips. There's the best of the Juicebox podcast and some episodes that people say are great quick start episodes to get yourself into the podcast. Now you can click on any one of those links. I'm just going to randomly pick Diabetes Variables. It will take you to another website, another page on my website with a player. You can play every episode in the Diabetes Variables series right there online, or at the very least in the player, you can see the episode numbers of each episode. Go back into your audio app if you want, like search Juicebox Podcast 507, and you'll get Diabetes Variables Travel. On those pages, if you scroll down, there's links to other series. There's links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and other ways to find podcast apps, all right there. Going back to the main page and scrolling past jump to a series, you can subscribe to the email list there. You can search the podcast, so search the website and all of the episodes. You can support the podcast by clicking on links for the advertisers like Omnipod, Dexcom, US Med, Eversense 365, Touch by Type 1, the Contour Next Gen, Gvoke HypoPen, Cozy Earth, Medtronic, T1D Exchange, and a couple of more that are coming very, very soon in January of 2025. That really helps the podcast. The search feature is awesome. Like there was an episode with a guy who took a GLP and got off his insulin. Type in GLP, insulin, and all the episodes that have GLP in it come up. Dr. Blevins comes up. The Type 2 Pro Tip series comes up. GLP meds as an overview comes up. Defining diabetes insulin deficient. And here it is, Off Insulin with Mounjaro, episode 1230. It's a great search engine that's powered by Google, but only searches the podcast webpage. Sorry. It's really awesome. It works really, really well. That's pretty much it. So there's transcripts on each page for each separate episode. You can get to them by clicking on the listen to a new episode link. There's like artwork from that episode, the name and the date that it comes out. There's a little arrow at the top that you can jump back through others. This is it. That's all I got for you right now. Have a happy Merry Christmas, New Year's, etc. Mazel Tov, whatever you got going on. You know what I'm saying? Have a great holiday season full of warmth, love, laughter, happiness. I hope you get to relax a little bit. Enjoy the brand new juiceboxpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening, subscribing, and supporting the podcast. Don't forget to check out the private Facebook group, the public Facebook page, and anywhere else you get your socials.